my original vision was to create a world where women of color, particularly African-American women, had voice and agency. Before I began my training at Wright, I had this one-sided vision of what power was. And I saw power as something for the privileged and not for people who looked like me. And when I thought about my history, I come from a long line of women who were strong women, and no one could ever doubt their ability to make a way out of no way. And for me, that was just magical that they could do that. They were the backbone of my family and my community, and they had grit and gumption, but they didn't have power. And it was kind of hard to understand, how could a person that I saw so forceful and so strong not have power? And understanding that their power was restricted because they were silenced and often not noticed. And I decided early that I wanted to do something to change that. In undergraduate, I really didn't get to understand what makes a person more in their body and more powerful and purposeful. I learned a lot of strategies and I learned a lot of terms and I knew a lot of studies, but it didn't help me give to the community that I wanted to serve. Then I got a master's with organizational science, thinking that I would understand how systems were put together, but still it left me knowing how to build an organization, but not knowing how to empower the people that were taking those positions and wanted to change. So I spent thousands of dollars and hundreds of reading hours taking self-help programs. I have a whole self-help bookcase. I have a lot of information, but not a lot of ways to apply what it was that I was learning. And then I decided that, it's time to break this cycle. And one day I was on the computer just looking for something that spoke to me about women. And WGU came up. I attended the open house, and what struck me was not only was I going to learn the theory behind it, but I was going to be immersed in the application of it. The surprising part was I was going to be my own case study. I was not ready for that. I wanted to come in and learn how to fix people, not myself. And so with that, when I first came in, I realized that in order to start to fix those people I wanted to fix out there, I had to learn about me. I had to learn what was my makeup, where did my emotions come from, what yearnings were they leading me to, and then understanding all of that, what was the bigger picture that I had for myself, and how could I create that more in my life? And so from that point on, I was immersed. I had my most difficult quarter as a first-year student at Wright Graduate when we had to talk about power. I already told you that I come from a group of women who had strength and not power. And I didn't associate the two. I just could not understand how I could do this assignment. Number one, because power for me was a negative term. It was a term that people used, a tool that people use for control, manipulation, oppression, and marginalization. And I by no means wanted to be associated with being powerful. But after I had that assignment, and I had to spend a whole quarter saying that I am power, and I had to create activities that put me in that position, not only for myself, but in front of others, I understood that my voice was power, and power wasn't all those other things that were outside of me. Power was the one thing in me on which I stood for and what I stand for today in terms of using my voice. I found that power was having influence, that power was living on purpose, that power was standing for what you believe and living in truth. And it shifted my understanding about what power was, and it laid the foundation then for me to understand how to get the people who felt like I did in terms of power being outside of themselves to understand that kernel of power that is in them, and that power in itself was enough to make changes in their lives. That was my transformation for the graduate programs. And even though I attend online because I'm on the East Coast, I have met some wonderful mentors, beautiful colleagues. We share different spaces, but the same track. And I love the way that I'm able to not only learn the academic side, but to integrate it through the assignment way, and that I have access to coaching. And more importantly, I get to learn how to do my business, in that I'm involved in what we call the applied projects, where I get to learn how to coach and how to train. And I did not know that that was part of my package when I signed up for the graduation. So I thank Wright, and I'm looking forward to my next year at Wright.